The scream cut through the early morning like a blade. "Pastor, they are talking again." Ezekiel Arinze froze in the middle of tying his tie. His reflection stared back at him from the mirror. Calm face, controlled breath. The same face his congregation trusted with their prayers, secrets, and fears. He slowly turned toward the doorway. "What kind of talking?" he asked. Lydia stood there. His wife. Beautiful, striking, wrapped in a fitted wine-red dress that hugged her body like it was sewn directly onto her skin. Her heels were already on, sharp and high, clicking lightly against the tiled floor as she shifted her weight. "The women," she said casually. "They were whispering again yesterday after service." Ezekiel exhaled softly. This again. He picked up his Bible. Old, softened by years of use. The pages were worn at the edges, marked by sermons preached and promises repeated. "Let them talk," he said. "People always talk." Lydia smiled, slow and knowing. "Easy for you to say. They don't look at you the way they look at me." She stepped closer, adjusted his collar, and kissed his cheek. Her perfume lingered long after she walked away. Outside, the city of Ogwashi was already awake. Horns blared, traders shouted, the streets buzzed with movement, and rising at the center of it all stood Covenant Flame Sanctuary, one of the largest churches in the region. That morning, as always, it was packed. People filled the aisles. Ushers struggled to find extra chairs. Some stood at the back, unwilling to miss the service of Reverend Ezekiel Arinze, the man many called the voice of God in Ogwashi. When he finally mounted the pulpit, silence fell instantly. He was tall, clean-cut, dressed simply in a white shirt and dark trousers. No flashy accessories, no excess, just presence. He said, "Lift your hands." The room obeyed. "Close your eyes." They did. His voice rolled through the hall, steady and powerful. People wept, some knelt, others whispered prayers through trembling lips. And then the doors opened. The sound of heels echoed across the tiled floor. Head turned before anyone could stop themselves. Lydia Arinze walked in like she owned the space. Her dress was short, not scandalous by nightclub standards, but painfully bold for a pastor's wife. It clung to her hips, the neckline dipped just enough to invite attention. Her walk was slow, confident, almost deliberate. Men swallowed hard, women frowned. A few murmured under their breath. Does she not own a mirror? Is this church or fashion parade? She is not ashamed at all. Lydia took her seat in the front row and crossed her legs. The dress rose higher. Ezekiel felt it without looking, the shift in the atmosphere, the distraction, the tension, but he kept preaching. After service, the whispers followed him like shadows. By Tuesday, the elders called for a meeting. They sat in the conference room behind the sanctuary. 7 men, all older, all respected. Their faces were serious. "Reverend, we need to speak plainly," Elder Nwanko nodded. "I'm listening." Elder Nwanko folded his hands. "Your wife is becoming a stumbling block." The words landed heavy. Another elder added, "Members are uncomfortable. Families are leaving." Ezekiel frowned. "Because of how my wife dresses?" "Yes," Elder Nwanko said, "and because of what it represents." Ezekiel leaned back. "She is my wife, not a church project." "With respect," another elder cut in, "when you married her, we warned you." The room fell silent. Ezekiel's jaw tightened. He remembered that meeting years ago. The same room, the same faces. Back then, they had tried to stop the wedding. "She is not spiritually grounded. She lives a worldly life. She will bring trouble." And back then, he had smiled calmly and said the words that ended all arguments. God revealed her to me. He repeated it now. I didn't choose Lydia on my own. God showed her to me. I saw her in prayer. I saw peace. Elder Nwanko sighed. Sometimes, Reverend, desire can dress itself like revelation. Ezekiel stood up. Meeting adjourned. That night, Lydia laughed when he told her. They are jealous, she said, sipping wine on the couch. Old women and tired men who no longer feel seen. Can you at least dress more modestly? Ezekiel asked gently. Her smile vanished. So now you want to control me? I'm asking for the sake of the church. And what about me? She snapped. Do you know how invisible I feel in this house? He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. She stood up. You married me like this, she said coldly. Don't ask me to disappear now. She walked into the bedroom and slammed the door. Weeks passed. The whispers grew louder. Attendance dropped. Ezekiel prayed harder. Lydia dressed bolder. And somewhere between sermons and silence, something unseen began to rot. Ezekiel did not notice because from the outside, everything still looked anointed. And in Ogwashi, no one suspected that the man everyone trusted had already made the first mistake that would destroy everything. The knock came late. 3 short taps. Soft, careful. Lydia glanced at the clock on her phone and smiled. Perfect timing, she murmured. She slipped her feet into sandals, grabbed her handbag, and checked her reflection in the mirror. Her dress was black this time, simple from the front, dangerous from the back. She adjusted her hair, dabbed perfume behind her ears, and stepped out of the apartment quietly. Inside the bedroom, Ezekiel slept. He had returned late from church counseling, exhausted. He had prayed before sleeping. He always did. God will fix everything, he whispered in his dreams. Outside, a silver car waited. The driver stepped out immediately when he saw Lydia. You kept me waiting, he said with a grin. Pastors' wives are not allowed to rush, Lydia replied, climbing into the car. They drove into the night. To the world, Lydia Arinze was enviable. She lived in a spacious apartment near the city center. She attended high-profile church events. People greeted her with forced respect. She wore clothes others admired, but dared not copy. But behind closed doors, Lydia felt hollow. Ezekiel was never home. When he was, his body was present, but his mind was somewhere else. Sermons, visions, meetings, prayer chains, deliverance sessions. He touched her like duty, never like desire. One night, she had tried. She wore silk, lit candles, played soft music. Ezekiel smiled, kissed her forehead and said, I'm fasting. That was the night something inside Lydia snapped. The first man came slowly. A businessman she met at a charity dinner. Polite, attentive. He looked at her like she mattered. You don't talk much, he said. Because no one listens, she replied. He did. After that, it became easier. Too easy. Different men, different places, same feeling. Being wanted, being chosen, being seen. She told herself lies to survive. Ezekiel chose God over me. I am lonely in my own marriage. I deserve happiness too. And when guilt crept in, she dressed it up and silenced it. Ezekiel noticed changes, but he explained them away. Lydia missed midweek services. She's tired, he told himself. She returned home late. Traffic, she said. She spent more time on her phone. Women like to chat.
He prayed harder instead of asking questions. Then Lydia got pregnant. She sat alone in the bathroom staring at the test stick. 2 bold lines. Her heart raced. Not now. She counted dates in her head. Her hands shook. Then she smiled. She knew exactly what to do. That night, she wore soft cotton, no perfume, no heels. She cooked Ezekiel's favorite meal. "You remembered?" he asked, surprised. She smiled sweetly. "You worked too hard." They talked, they laughed. It felt almost normal. She touched his hand. He did not pull away. Weeks later, she stood before him, tears in her eyes. "I'm pregnant." Ezekiel dropped his Bible. He lifted his hands to the ceiling. "Thank you, Lord." He fasted for 3 days in gratitude. He announced it in church with joy. The congregation celebrated. No one saw the lie taking shape. Their son, Nathan, was born during the rainy season. Ezekiel wept the first time he held him. "My son," he whispered. Lydia watched from the hospital bed, her smile tight. Guilt visited her at night. She chased it away in the morning. 2 years later, it happened again. Different man, same mistake. This time, fear didn't even bother knocking. She repeated the pattern. Another pregnancy, another announcement, another miracle praised at the altar. Their daughter, Elora, was born with big eyes and a quiet nature. Ezekiel believed God was building his legacy. Lydia knew better. As years passed, the cracks widened. Men in the church struggled. Women grew resentful. Attendance fell. The elders pleaded. "Your home is affecting your calling," they told Ezekiel. "I am praying," he replied. Prayer became his shield against truth. One afternoon, Lydia returned home early. She found Ezekiel sitting in the living room staring at nothing. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "I'm losing the church, and I don't know why." She said nothing. She watched him crumble. And still, she kept her secret. The knock came again. But this time, it was not gentle. It was violent, angry, demanding. Ezekiel opened the door, and everything he believed shattered in one sentence. "I've come for my son." Ezekiel blinked. "I think you have the wrong house." The man stepped inside without permission. "I don't." The past had arrived, and it was not leaving quietly. The room went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence Ezekiel was used to in prayer. This one was heavy, suffocating, the kind that presses against the chest until breathing becomes work. "I said I've come for my son." The man stood near the doorway, tall and solid, his jaw clenched. His eyes scanned the room before settling on the framed family photo on the wall. Ezekiel, Lydia, 2 children smiling under a blue sky. Ezekiel swallowed. "Sir," he said carefully, "you are mistaken." The man let out a dry laugh. "I wish I was." Before Ezekiel could say more, the front door opened again. Lydia walked in. The grocery bag slipped from her hands. Oranges rolled across the floor. For a brief moment, no one spoke. Then Lydia whispered, "Kenny, why are you here?" That was all Ezekiel needed. His knees weakened. "You know him?" Ezekiel asked. Kenny's eyes never left Lydia. "You didn't tell him?" Ezekiel turned slowly. "Tell me what?" Lydia's lips trembled. "Ezekiel, please. Tell me." The words came out louder than he intended, sharper, broken. Kenny stepped forward. "That boy in the bedroom, Nathan, he's mine." Ezekiel shook his head. "That's impossible." "Do a test," Kenny said coldly. I've been sending money since the day he was born. Ezekiel felt the room tilt. No, he whispered, you are lying. Lydia sank to the floor. She did not deny it. That silence was louder than any confession. The truth came in pieces, ugly pieces. Ezekiel sat while Lydia cried and spoke between sobs. The affair, the pregnancy, the timing, the manipulation. He listened without blinking. Then he asked the question he was afraid of. And Elora? Lydia couldn't look at him. Is she mine? Her shoulders shook. No. Something inside Ezekiel broke completely. He stood up and walked into the bedroom. Nathan ran to him. Daddy. The words sliced him open. Ezekiel hugged him anyway. That night, Ezekiel did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling until dawn. DNA tests confirmed everything. The story spread faster than fire. Markets, offices, salons, churches. The great Reverend Arinze was deceived. God did not speak after all. Pride finished him. Ezekiel stopped answering his phone. He stopped preaching. He stopped pretending. The elders came quietly. Think of the children, Elder Nwakom pleaded. They know only you. Ezekiel said softly, and that's why I must stop lying. He filed for divorce. Lydia did not fight it. She packed quietly. Before leaving Ogwashi, she wrote a letter. In it, she spoke of loneliness, of neglect, of needing affection. Ezekiel read it once, then he burnt it, not in anger, in release. The final service was packed. Cameras waited outside. Ezekiel stood at the pulpit, looking smaller than before. My family, he began, voice shaking. I stand before you today, not as your leader, but as a man who failed. The church was silent. I ignored wisdom. I dressed desire in God's voice. And because of my pride, many of you were hurt. Tears flowed freely. I am stepping down. Gasps followed. I need to heal, and I need to stop pretending I am whole. People stood and cried. They hugged him after service. Forgiveness poured where judgment once lived. Months passed. Ezekiel went for counseling. He listened more than he spoke. He learned humility the hard way. A year later, he started something small. No stage, no title, just chairs in a hall. He called it the broken table, a place for people who had fallen, failed, lied, been hurt. He told his story openly, not to impress, to warn, to heal. Lydia never returned. Ezekiel never remarried. He still sent gifts to Nathan and Elora. He called on birthdays. They were innocent, and he chose compassion over bitterness. In Ogwashi, the story lived on. Parents told it to their children. Listen to wisdom. Character matters more than beauty. Do not say God spoke when it was desire. And Ezekiel, once known as the powerful preacher, became something greater. A humble man who learned too late and warned others in time.